Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
This episode contains graphic descriptions of domestic violence. Listener discretion is advised. 33-year-old Nicole Montalvo was by all accounts a tirelessly hard worker. She juggled 2 restaurant jobs while she raised her 8-year-old son, Elijah. She was also the kind of mom who checked in constantly with her son's teacher and regularly volunteered to be a school chaperone. Her phone and social media account were full of selfies of her smiling with Elijah. Life seemed to be promising for the single mother who was trying her best to do it all. The future looked optimistic. Good things were finally happening. Nicole recently moved into her own apartment and paid her first month's rent, giving her a place to call her own. She was dating somebody new.
Nicole Montalvo on Monday, October 21st, had a life whose trajectory was up. She was happy. She was going to take Elijah to the pumpkin patch. She had her own apartment.
Nicole regularly posted inspirational quotes on social media. "I'm broken, but I'm strong. My talent, never giving up. Hold on. God knows what he's doing." She was in the process of going through a divorce, the end of a violent and turbulent decade-long relationship. Sometimes, Nicole reportedly felt the strain from her estranged husband, Christopher Otero Rivera, and his side of the family. She worried her social media was getting hacked and that they were looking for leverage against her in what could be a custody battle that lay ahead. She wasn't supposed to see her husband after a history of domestic violence, and she had gotten a court order for protection. But as time passed, she wrote a letter to the judge, asking for the communication restrictions to be lifted. Chris was a good father, Nicole wrote. They needed to communicate to raise their son, even if Nicole and Chris couldn't be together as a couple. Nicole seemed to be on good terms with her husband's family. Her in-laws, Wanda and Angel, offered to help out with childcare and acted as the intermediaries while Chris and Nicole stayed apart. She called and texted Wanda and Angel when she needed support, or if something went wrong, like when her father-in-law helped her buy a car. And then in October 2019, Nicole disappeared. The devoted mom, the loyal employee who didn't miss shifts, the outgoing presence on social media who was always checking in with friends and family. Nothing. Total silence. The court case to follow would make headlines in Central Florida, and the case would eventually erupt into a fight between the community's elected leaders on how to bring charges. This is Jillian, and in partnership with Law and Crime, you are listening to Court Junkie, episode 169. Nicole Montalvo was missing. She had picked up her son from school around 3:30 p.m. on October 21st, a Monday. Then Nicole's family hadn't heard from her since she dropped her son off at her in-laws' home. Nicole was scheduled to work Tuesday at a local pizza joint, but she never showed up. She missed a meeting with her son's teacher that day too, leaving her son stranded at school. She didn't appear the next day at her second job at Outback Steakhouse either. All of this was out of character for Nicole, who had a reputation as a conscientious and responsible worker. Her social media account was quiet, Again, not like Nicole, who always loved to post. Her phone was silent too. She normally was constantly checking in with her friends and family, who sensed something was wrong. The red flags frightened the people in Nicole's inner circle, like her friends, coworkers, and family members, who all knew about the violence she had experienced at the hands of her estranged husband, Chris. The couple was fighting over custody of their son, Elijah, and Chris's family, especially his father, Angel, had gotten involved, causing more stress and fear for Nicole, some felt. According to an investigative Osceola County Sheriff's report, one friend said Angel and Chris had hacked into Nicole's social media account and found nude pictures of her, which they threatened to use against her as they sought full custody of Elijah. Law enforcement was soon involved in Nicole's disappearance. In their view, this wasn't just a routine missing persons report. It was escalated to the Violent Crimes Unit because of the troubled history between Nicole and Chris. Osceola County Sheriff's Detective Cole Miller, the lead detective, later testified during a court hearing that they believed right away that her disappearance might be under nefarious circumstances. The place that immediately drew their suspicion, 3925 Hickson Avenue in St. Cloud, Florida. That's the setting for much of today's episode. As you pass Disney World and head southeast for about 30 minutes, you start to enter a different Florida, far from Mickey Mouse and the tourist t-shirt shops and colorful hotels. You're in what feels like old country Florida, like you're in the middle of nowhere. 3925 Hickson was a blue house off a dirt road on 5 acres of property. It was treated like a junkyard with RVs, a metal shop and trailers, and scrap metal laying about, along with the avocado and fruit trees on the property. Angel and Wanda, the patriarch and matriarch of the family, lived there with their 2 adult sons, Chris and Nicholas. It was the last place where Nicole had been seen. The household seemed to be a home full of chaos, according to Diane Dean, who got a front row of the family dynamics since she rented a bedroom from Wanda and Angel.
How would you describe their relationship in the house between parents and their sons and whatnot? How would you, if you had to put a word to it, or how would you describe their relationship?
Hot and cold.
Hot and cold.
They're fighting all the time. There's constant confrontations going on.
Okay.
In the home. All the time with everybody. It's very, very bad.
At the Hickson home on that Wednesday, 2 days after Nicole was last seen, law enforcement spoke with Wanda, Angel, and Chris in the living room. The room, at first glance, looked as though nothing was amiss. No blood spatter, no signs of a struggle, and no Nicole. Everyone appeared to be cooperating and answering questions.
Speaking with Wanda Otero Rivera. Okay. We're here at your home on Hickson Drive, Hickson Avenue, St. Cloud, investigating a missing person, your daughter-in-law, Nicole.
The family sounded relaxed. The detective could see that Chris was wearing an ankle monitoring bracelet. He was still on probation from his past legal problems with Nicole. Chris explained to the detective about the no-contact order, barring him from seeing his estranged wife.
I don't know the stipulations or whatnot. Is there some type of no-contact order or some type of paper in place or something? Or tell me about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are the stipulations between you and Nicole?
No contact, no third party, her house, job.
No contact at all?
No.
Okay, and I'm sure that the child custodial kind of thing is sounds like your parents are the median, or
yes.
The median, whatever. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so you had zero communication with her?
No. She had gotten in contact with me a few times, and I tried to explain to her, that we're not supposed to, okay.
When's the last time she contacted you? And be honest with you.
Honestly, Friday? I believe it was Friday.
Okay.
She messaged me. She sent me a text message saying that she was dropping off Elijah. So.
What did you guys talk about it after that?
That was it.
Did you reply or anything?
I said okay. That was it. And it was just,
What time? I
shouldn't have, but it was
no. Listen. I'm beyond. I'm not too worried about I'm worried about finding her safe.
Absolutely.
That's our main goal. I'm not worried about trying to hem you up at all.
Understood.
What time of day do you think that was on Friday?
After school, 3:30ish.
And he goes to Harmony Community, I heard?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So she picks him up
at 3:10.
She shoots you a text saying, hey, I'm going to drop Elijah off. And then you say,
I reply, okay.
And that's the last time you've had contact with her.
That was it.
Stepping in to help the estranged couple were Angel and Wanda, who often provided childcare for Elijah. Elijah was a regular at their home and sometimes slept there with Nicole picking him up in the mornings to go to school. Chris and Nicole, who were still legally married, wanted shared custody of Elijah, according to Wanda.
Do you know of anything that's going on right now in regards to your son, as far as him trying to get full custody of Elijah?
They want to get shared custody. They both prefer having shared custody. He, and she always admitted he's a better parent with Elijah because he's, firmer with him. And with her, he just gets over on her.
Nicole's in-laws said they had a close relationship with her, despite all the past drama between her and their son and the lingering tension they still felt from Nicole's family. Wanda said she acted almost like a mother figure to Nicole. She respects me, she told the detectives. Nicole would confide in her and was in constant communication with Wanda and Angel, so this sudden silence was unusual. Wanda and Angel's interview provided detectives with a timeline of when Nicole was last seen. Angel said he last saw her around 5 p.m. on Monday, October 21st, when she dropped Elijah off. Nicole then texted him later that evening. Even though Nicole was upbeat with the direction of her life, her new apartment, plans to take Elijah to a pumpkin patch for Halloween, a new guy she liked, her text message to Angel that night seemed gloomy. Nicole said she had made a mistake and that she was going to be gone for a while. She asked Angel and Wanda to watch Elijah while she was gone. She promised to be in touch as soon as she could. Angel read Nicole's message out loud for investigators, followed by his response back.
At 6:56, it says, I'm really sorry about everything. I should have listened to you. I made a bad mistake. I need you and Wanda to take care of Elijah for a few days until I get things figured out. Please do this for Elijah. I am with a friend that is going to help me get through this. Tell Elijah that Mommy loves him. And then I wrote back, please talk to me. Before you do anything. The only one that suffers is Elijah. Please call me now.
Chris told detectives he was upset by Nicole's message. Why would a mother abruptly leave her boy like that? Had she run off with the new guy she was seeing?
I mean, it's got me choked up, man. I just don't understand why she would do that. I don't understand who she would really trust like that to leave with. And to leave her son?
What's your gut feeling? What do you think?
I don't know. She might have been seeing somebody, but we washed our hands from all that, and we decided we were going to be friends. She sent a letter into the judge to drop the injunction, so that we can work things out and be friends and communicate for our son and do the best that we have to do for him.
You mean work things out like what? To get back together?
No, just to be friends and stay friends.
The detective asked Chris if, in the 10 years he has known her, if she has ever done anything like this before.
She's left home. Like, I mean, not. She's kept in contact with somebody though. She's never done anything like this. Just straight, hey, you know, I'm leaving. And I mean, we didn't have a son at the time, but we were staying together in a motel. You know, and we went to the motel and we stood there, but she still had her phone on. This time, it's like she turned it off.
Chris was asked how their son is handling all of this.
He doesn't really know.
Okay.
You know, he asked for his mother, but I tell him, oh, she's working.
Yeah.
You know, he knows that sometimes he ends up getting taken to school by grandpa.
Have you guys, because we're getting so many different stories, have you or your family called law enforcement to have any well-being checks or report her missing or anything?
No.
No. Okay.
No, we never had any reason to. We never felt there was any reason to.
I mean, when did you become concerned?
When we started, well, I started to when I started hearing from other people today talking about she's missing, she didn't show up to work.
That's my next follow-up. So, like, when did you start finding out that she's missing?
Today. Well, that's what people are saying, is that she's missing.
Okay.
You know, I don't want to believe it.
Okay.
I don't. You know, I want to hear that she's safe and sound. She's coming home. You know, she's coming back to her son. You know. So,
I mean, I know it's your parents' place and it's property and everything like that. So then you wouldn't have, obviously, I mean, if there's already people out here checking, you wouldn't have any issues with us following up with any of that stuff, is right?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay. So you appear very cooperative and everything like
Absolutely.
that. Okay.
Absolutely.
Because obviously there's boxes that we have to check and everything as well. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The sheriff's detectives left the Riveras without any major clues on where Nicole could be. The following day, authorities found Nicole's abandoned 1999 gold Honda with the dome light still shining dimly. One of the doors was slightly open. The vehicle had been left off a busy road in a commercial area. Lieutenant George Maroney was passing through the area when he stopped to run the tag. It's a strange area for cars to be sitting. There's not normally any cars sitting there, he testified. As the tag came back, he realized it was Nicole's. Quote, once it came up as the missing girl's vehicle, I made sure that the detectives were en route. I just made sure detectives were coming because of the missing person report. Lieutenant Maroney peered inside the car, but didn't see any blood or evidence of Nicole inside. He didn't open the car door, waiting until the detectives arrived. Detective Miller outlined in court how the sheriff's office handled Nicole's disappearance. Quote, we're trying to come up with a game plan, just like we do on any other investigation, and try to divide and conquer. Detectives went to Nicole's St. Cloud apartment. They learned she had paid rent before she vanished, but now no trace of her at home. Investigators also looked deeper into that text message Angel shared with them. The sheriff's office doubted the text was actually written by Nicole. The message clearly came from Nicole's device, but phone records eventually showed that her phone pinged off a cell tower near the Hickson house. It was as if Nicole had never left her in-laws' home when she texted Angel. And Nicole's mother pointed out Nicole always used emojis and slang. She was also a terrible speller when she communicated with her friends and family. The texts Angel had received were spelled out and written with perfect pronunciation. Something definitely seemed off. Nicole and Chris got married in May 2011 and had one son, Elijah. But it wasn't a happy union. Elaine Montalvo, Nicole's mother, would later say, quote, it was constant fighting, constant battle, violent fighting. She would get beat up. It was not a good marriage at all. She left numerous times. She would move back home with us and stay with us for a while, and then she would move back with him and his family. The relationship was becoming more turbulent. According to Nicole's family, Nicole wasn't always on speaking terms with them, which they blamed on Chris putting a wedge between them. They said Chris wouldn't let Nicole see her mom. Elaine said she didn't even know where they were staying at the time. Christina Montalvo, Nicole's younger sister, had been tight with Nicole when they were younger. But in a later court hearing, she testified that as soon as Nicole and Chris got married, they weren't as close. She said they were unable to have contact with her. You can definitely tell that he was controlling, abusive, manipulative, she said. Nicole's mother, Elaine, also put it in blunt terms when she testified in court. She did not like her son-in-law or his family. But even if Nicole and Elaine's relationship was sometimes frayed, Elaine was there when her daughter found herself alone and scared in an emergency. On June 6, 2016, the phone rang and Elaine heard a female's voice on the line. "Are you Nicole's mother?" the woman's voice asked. "Yes," Elaine said. The voice responded, "You need to come pick Nicole up. I'm going to put her on the phone. Chris beat her up." Elaine rehashed this phone call when she testified at a June 2020 court hearing. Nicole was crying. "She was scared. She was begging me to come," Elaine said. Elaine and her husband got the address, finally knowing their daughter's exact whereabouts, and drove to rescue her. They also called 911. The police officer beat them to the house. Elaine testified, quote, "As soon as we arrived, Nicole came out and she had a big bruise, redness on her forehead that was already swelling. She was crying. Her shirt was ripped. She had bruises on her and she was really scared and really hurt and upset." Osceola County Sheriff's Deputy Lucas Castillo noticed Nicole's injuries. Her bruised forehead, a bump on her head, cut lips, the bruises all over her body. While the police took Nicole's statement, Elaine went inside the house to gather up her daughter's belongings. There in front of her was the evidence of the domestic violence her daughter had been living with. A wooden baby gate was completely mangled, Elaine said, and she could see holes in the walls, an upside-down kitchen table, and a vacuum cleaner hose thrown against the floor. Elaine said she packed up Nicole's and Elijah's clothes to help them make their escape. Later, she would have time to hear the rest of the story and learn why the home was in such shambles. In a domestic violence injunction petition, Nicole wrote the following, after saying she had been out with family, and when she came home, Chris had been drinking. Quote, "He got mad over something dumb, then got in my face. He smacked me across the face. I started to bleed. Then he asked if I had his beer." Elaine testified that Nicole had said she took a beer out of the fridge and, quote, "Chris headbutted her, and he pushed her up against the wall and put her face through the wall. He took the baby gate and hit her with the baby gate all up and down her back and her side, and he pulled her by her hair through the house. She was getting scared and everything, and he got in the car and he left." Nicole filed for a restraining order and stayed with her family after that, but it wasn't a permanent breakup. She went back to Chris. To some people, it might seem hard to fathom that someone wouldn't just leave their abuser. But in reality, breaking free can be much harder and more complicated. According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, quote, "Abusers repeatedly go to extremes to prevent the victim from leaving. In fact, leaving an abuser is the most dangerous time for a victim of domestic violence. A victim's reasons for staying with their abusers are extremely complex, and in most cases are based on the reality that their abuser will follow through with the threats they have used to keep them trapped. The abuser will hurt or kill them. They will hurt or kill the kids. They will win custody of the children. They will harm or kill pets or others. They will ruin their victim financially. The list goes on." By 2018, Nicole had had enough and was ready to leave Chris. She filed for divorce. While the divorce was being worked out, custody arrangements were 50-50. Nicole and her son lived with Elaine. Elaine watched her grandson in the evenings while Nicole worked as a server at Outback Steakhouse. One evening, on October 4th, 2018, Nicole walked through the doorway and her mother could immediately sense something was wrong. Nicole was bloody. Her clothes were shredded. Elaine testified, quote, "She was trying to hold her shirt together because her entire shirt buttons were ripped off and it was ripped. So she was holding, her hair was all messed up. She had like stuff in her hair, like twigs and branches or leaves. And her face, her mouth was all bloody. She had dried blood and it was swollen, and she was crying and shaking."
Where's your emergency?
Hi, my sister just got home and she just got attacked by her husband.
Okay, does he live there with her?
No, I don't know the whole story. I had to come back inside with my nephew, but I don't know how they met up, but he took her out somewhere and she just came back and she was all messed up.
Where did the incident happen at? I need to know where the incident occurred at.
Give me one second.
So the husband's not there right now, is that correct?
No, but he's threatening to come to her.
Okay, hold on a minute. So
where did it happen?
They were in a physical altercation. Where did this happen at?
Hold on. She said it's somewhere in Poinciana. She's not sure because they took her.
Nicole told her mom that Chris and another woman, Tony Rocker, had kidnapped her and tried to kill her. According to Elaine's testimony, quote, "She told us that Chris and Tony had taken her out, and Tony pulled her out of the car and that Chris tried choking her, and he put her in a headlock. He was slapping her and punching her in the face. He pushed her down on the ground. He sat on top of her. They tried to shove a rag down her throat and hold her nose at the same time, and she had a knife held up against her throat." Chris and Tony then ordered Nicole to lie. "Say you were jumped by 4 black men on the way to work, and they beat you up and took all your money." In front of her mother, though, Nicole told her the truth. It was Chris and Tony who did this to her. Elaine tried to convince Nicole to be honest with the police and the medical first responders who came to the house. But Elaine could see the fear in her daughter. Nicole didn't want to leave the garage or go outside to talk with anyone. Elaine testified, "When we finally got Nicole to start going down to the ambulance with the law enforcement, because they pretty much came around her and told her they would protect her. So we started walking down to the ambulance, and as we walked down to the ambulance, Nicole screamed, 'There they are, that's them.' And we looked over and a car was coming down the street. The car pulled into the neighbor's driveway and backed out and started going back down the street. And we live on a circle, a big circle, but they started going back down the street. And as soon as Nicole screamed, 'That's them, they're coming, that's them,' 2 of the officers got back into their vehicles, and one took off this way and then one took off that way, and they both left, the police officers. And then we were just there with the ambulance and the other police officer that was still there." Officers stopped Chris and Tony. Osceola County Sheriff's Deputy Robert Hansel Jr. testified that inside their car were 2 of Nicole's credit cards, a few dollars Nicole had on her, and a rag that fit the description of what Nicole said they had used to choke her. Nicole was rattled. She wouldn't step into the ambulance, so her mother drove her to the hospital. Deputy Hansel said she had worry in her face at a later court hearing. He said he could tell Nicole had been through something traumatic. Nicole opened up to Deputy Hansel and told him what really happened, how her estranged husband lured her away under the guise that he needed a ride because his car battery died. So Nicole met him at Walmart. He then guided her to an isolated area, and another car pulled up. It was Tony who pulled Nicole out of her car and threw her to the ground. Tony then stuffed a rag in her mouth, Nicole said. Chris tried to break her neck. After the attack, Chris and Tony pressured her to blame it on 4 black strangers. The deputy read Chris's text messages to Nicole that confirmed her story. A cell phone tower also corroborated Nicole's statements. showing where she had met Chris and picked him up, and then they'd traveled together south on an isolated road in the county based on the location of Chris's phone. Nicole, scared as she was, decided to fight back. She decided to press charges against Chris and Tony. Chris pleaded no contest to hindering a witness's ability to communicate with law enforcement, unlawful possession of a credit or debit card, and battery. The more serious charges were dropped. He served several months in jail and then was under supervised probation for 2 years, which was still in place when Nicole disappeared in October 2019. Nicole testified in Tony's trial, although Tony was ultimately acquitted. She also sought an injunction against Chris for protection against domestic violence. Ashley Farrell, an attorney who worked at Help Now Osceola County, an organization that provided services to domestic violence victims, was the advocate who worked with Nicole to make the temporary injunction against him a permanent one in mid-October 2018. The court hearing was in a room full of people, deputies, other petitioners, and responders. Chris, shackled and dressed in a jail uniform, sat in the jury box. His interaction was so disturbing that Ashley asked for help from a deputy. Ashley later testified, quote, "Mr. Rivera was glaring at my client, did not take his eyes off of my client, in what I found to be a threatening or menacing view or way. And sometimes that happens, and I asked the deputy to please go tell him to be staring at the judge or staring somewhere else and not be staring at my client." During the hearing, Chris wanted to contest the allegations against him, but the judge ruled in favor of Nicole. Injunction granted. It was a victory for her. I hugged her and I congratulated her and told her I was very proud of her and how brave she was, Ashley said. Nicole was taking steps to free herself from her abuser. Chris's brief time in jail was when he met a man named Dustin Gonzalez. Dustin Gonzalez took the stand during an August 2020 Osceola County court hearing. He wasn't your typical witness. He was currently living at the Moore Haven Correctional Institute, his home for the past year, since he was convicted of being a felon in possession of a firearm and battery on a law enforcement officer. Before that, Dustin had spent time in the Osceola County Jail before he was sent to the State Institute, and that's how he had met Chris Otero Rivera in October 2018. They shared a cell for 2 months and spent time out in the same pod. But the two were soon parting ways, thanks to the Rivera family. Even though he had no money, Dustin bonded out of jail in January 2019. That was due to his benefactors, Chris and his father Angel, who paid the bill so Dustin could be free. During a pretrial hearing, the prosecutor asked him, "So tell us how it was that Christopher Otero Rivera helped you bond out." "He called his dad on the phone and had his dad meet up with my dad and give him money to bond me out," Dustin answered. Now, why would Christopher Otero Rivera be willing to ask his dad to pay for your bond? What did he want in exchange for that? The prosecutor asked. "He wanted me to help him discredit Nicole," Dustin said. Chris was getting ready to battle Nicole in a custody fight for their son, Elijah. Chris once again was developing a scheme, another ploy to hurt the mother of his child. According to Dustin, his idea was for Dustin to get out of jail quickly so he could plant drugs in Nicole's car. Once out in society again, free from bars, Dustin borrowed a phone and called Chris's father. "He wanted to meet me whenever I first got out to make sure that I got out and to talk about what I planned to do," Dustin said. Angel met up with Dustin later that day. Dustin said he assured him he would follow through. He promised to leave some drugs in Nicole's car and then alert the authorities so Nicole would get in trouble, her chances of winning custody of Elijah in jeopardy. Access into the car required a spare key, although it seemed to be missing. Chris had thought his father, Angel, kept one. Angel wasn't sure where the extra key was. The hatred for Nicole spread deeper than just Chris. Dustin said he heard the ruthlessness in Angel's voice. Quote, as we were speaking, he asked me, his words were, I'd rather her just disappear. I was thrown off by it, and I told him I was kind of like I really didn't understand what he was talking about. And I looked at him crazy because I only got paid $500. You know, I'm not making somebody disappear for $500. I was okay with going after a woman's, credibility for my own freedom. And then it just ended up being a weird situation, so I didn't do nothing for nobody. The prosecutor asked, so that I'm clear, this conversation happened on the same day that you bonded out of the Osceola County Jail? Yes, sir. The next day, Dustin was out walking to his family's house in the same rural area where Chris and his family lived. Angel was driving by, saw Dustin, and stopped. Angel asked if Dustin had gotten a chance to scope out Nicole's home. Dustin lied and said yes. Angel was in a hurry for Dustin to plant the drugs, even though he still hadn't found the spare key to Nicole's car. When are you going to do it? Angel asked. Angel then steered the conversation to the same place it had gone the day before. Dustin recounted, and then he said to me, I wish she would just disappear. It'd make it so much easier. And I was like, I don't do that. You know what I mean? Plus I got $500. And that's when he told me, and he said, I got money. And I just looked at him crazy. Angel looked serious. He wasn't joking. Dustin believed he meant it. That's why I kind of stopped having contact with him after that, Dustin said. Being a hitman wasn't in his line of work. And did you ever see Angel Rivera again after that day? The prosecutor asked. No, sir. And did you ever plant drugs on Nicole Montalvo? No, sir. Did you ever attempt to harm her in any way? No, sir. Do you remember where you were when she went missing in October of 2019? Dustin said he was in prison. He said he didn't even know she was missing or dead until the state contacted his family. But Dustin did stand to gain something from his testimony. There had been a clerical error when Dustin was sentenced. He pled to a concurrent sentence, but in prison, it showed up in the system as a consecutive sentence. So his sentence of 3 to 4 years was incorrectly looking more like 7 or 8. The assistant state attorney agreed to fix the mistake, and now Dustin was clearly willing to talk and share his story at trial in front of a jury. In opening statements of said trial, the state brought up the importance of Dustin's testimony, but prosecutors also openly addressed the credibility issues he brought to the case with his background.
Dustin Gonzalez is a convicted felon, and you're going to hear about his poor life choices, and he's going to have tattoos, and he's going to look like exactly what's in your mind. But what I'm telling you now is that you will not have to rely solely on Dustin Gonzalez.
It was Monday, the day Nicole was last seen at the Rivera home, and Diane Dean, the renter who usually tried to steer clear of the confrontational Rivera family, witnessed something out of the ordinary that left an impression during the late afternoon. Wanda and Elijah were arguing. Wanda refused to let the little boy join his father and grandfather in the metal shop, a place the child was normally allowed to tag along. Diane, who normally stayed out of sight in her room, was drawn into the argument.
I was trying to figure out what's going on, you know what I mean? Because I'm closed off in my room, but I basically went to the front door. Elijah was out there, and I said, what's going on? And she said, well, he's not allowed to be at the shop right now. They're working with heavy equipment, and he could get hurt. And so I basically just said, oh, okay, and I just went back to my room. But I do remember seeing them loading a bulldozer onto a U-Haul or whatever you call it, later that day, or a little bit later after that, about 5:30 or 6 o'clock.
Okay, so you actually saw the machine?
Yes.
And it was being put on a U-Haul, you said?
Whatever they put it on to tow it. I believe it was leaving.
It was leaving.
I think it was there Sunday. I think it was delivered Sunday, and yeah.
Okay. So basically, they don't want Elijah back there, and she's not allowing him to go back there.
Correct.
Does he from that moment was that basically the argument between grandma and grandson?
Yes.
Okay. Does he listen, or does he try to go back there?
I think he did try to go back there again. He was very angry.
Okay.
You know, he was defiant because he wanted to be back there.
He wanted to be back there with his dad.
Because he's always back there with them.
As Wanda began cooking that night, the smell of rich foods permeated the air in the house. But it wasn't enough to hide a noxious odor. Something that smelled like death, Diane told police. She was used to bad smells in the home, especially from the poor water. Yet this was something different. Unforgettable, Diane called it, as she spoke with sheriff's investigators in a recorded interview.
The only thing that I remember was something smelled very good in the early evening hours. As a matter of fact, I know she's a very good cook, and I'm sure that everything is very fattening and high fat, and I was like drooling back there, but basically I fell asleep, and then I woke up to something that smelled like death. And I'm not trying to be, dramatic, but I'm saying that it smelled so bad that I was going to open my window, but I didn't. And I just managed to get back to sleep. But I'm specific because I'm very sensitive to my smell. Sense of smell is really sensitive.
With Diane's interviews, the investigators tapped into two important details that would appear again in their investigation into Nicole's disappearance. A piece of heavy machinery at the Rivera's property, and that terrible smell of death. When Nicole hadn't shown up to pick up Elijah from school and missed her appointment with Elijah's teacher on that Tuesday, law enforcement would later circle back to interview that teacher as part of their investigation. Crystal Bunn initially had Elijah in her kindergarten class, and she taught him again now that he was in the 3rd grade. She had gotten to know Nicole well. What she told detectives made it clear Nicole would never abandon her son, which made her disappearance all the more concerning. Nicole was a loving, devoted mother.
Did Elijah ever express to you the type of relationship he had with his mother?
Oh, he had an incredible relationship with his mother, very, very close. She provided for his every want and need. I mean, she was the most good mother any single mother could be.
Did she attend anything that had to do with school and Elijah?
Oh, gosh, everything that she could as far as, her work schedule would allow.
Crystal also offered some insight into Elijah's home life.
Did Elijah ever talk to you about his grandfather?
He did. He did also, both sides of the family, but more often Angel, and Wanda as well, because he lived with them as of late, and saying he expressed a lot of frustration with them. I felt like, now granted, this is me looking from the outside in, that Grandpa gave him a lot of rules and he didn't always like it, or that Grandpa was mean. I took that at the time to be, well, Grandpa's your source of behavior control when Mommy's not around. Not necessarily a good or bad thing. It gives me pause, though, now knowing what Elijah's gone through.
On Tuesday, October 22nd, Nicole and her son's teacher were scheduled for a 2:15 p.m. meeting to discuss Elijah's behavior in the classroom. But Nicole never showed, even though she had texted Crystal to confirm the meeting in advance the day before.
The day of the meeting, the following day, no, she didn't show up. She wasn't, and she's normally a mom that would be like early. She knew, and wanted to be there for his every need. And when she didn't show up and she was a little bit late, I was thinking, okay, well, I'll just call her cell phone. Well, it went straight to voicemail.
She looked at the emergency contact numbers for Elijah and called his grandfather, Angel.
When he picked up the phone, I got every feeling like he was very stuttery, like I had caught him off guard. And I said to him, do you know where Nikki's at? And he told me that, well, Nikki has some friends that are helping her out. And I said, well, is she coming? She knew of this meeting. Did you know about this meeting that we had? We're looking for Nikki. She's supposed to be here at 2:15 and she hasn't come. And I said, and in fact, it's getting kind of late in the school day. And do you know who's going to pick Elijah up?
Do you know what time this was about?
I would say he's bridging on 3 o'clock.
Okay.
And the school lets out at 3:15. And, of course, my IND students leave about 3:10. So Angel had told me, do you know, I don't know where she's at. I think I'm going to get in the truck right now and I'm going to come to the school to pick him up. And maybe we can meet Nikki in the parking lot and I'll talk to her about responsibilities and being a good parent. And I don't know where she's at. She did this once before. She went to Miami. And I don't know, she hasn't been being responsible lately. And I was like, okay, well, this is the first time this has ever happened, but we'll see you when you get here.
In Nicole's absence, Angel picked up Elijah Tuesday after school, and then he was back again Wednesday morning to drop Elijah off. But Angel's behavior seemed unusual to Crystal. He was overly chatty, the teacher remembered. It gave her weird feelings.
Then, that morning at morning drop-off, we accepted Elijah in. He went inside the building, and he said bye to Grandpa and didn't appear upset or anything like that at that point. It was just only upset that he had to come to school kind of thing. Typical for him, though. And then Angel proceeded to just, pour out his heart about how he didn't know what was going on. He was upset that Nikki was being irresponsible again. He showed me several text messages on his phone that were in regards to how Nikki was sending these text messages to Angel saying that she should have listened to him.
So you saw that text?
That he something to the effect, and I wish I could remember it with greater detail, but that she should have followed what Angel said. That Angel also told me about how he had sat down at a pool with Chris and Nikki, and they had drafted some plan for how they were going to work out sharing time with Elijah, and he went into detail about how Chris could have Elijah for one holiday and Nikki could have him for another, and they were working things out, and that he didn't know what was going on. He didn't know where Nikki was at. It was just weird. No one had heard from her. That the last person to see Nikki was his granddaughter, and he thought that happened at 5:06 p.m. and she was
he specific to 5:06
very specific and said it numerous times to me, which again, in hindsight, that's just weird. 5:06, not 5-ish, not around 5 o'clock, not in the afternoon. 5:06 p.m. headed past Valencia Community College in Kissimmee.
5:06 p.m. Okay.
And it all those things just gave me weird feelings. I mean, I tried to make notes for you guys because I just felt like it was funky, all the different things he shared with me. Just a lot.
What happened to Nicole Montalvo? Who exactly was responsible for her disappearance? We'll find out next week in part 2. And that's all for today's episode. This episode was researched and written by Gabrielle Roussan. Make sure you're following Court Junkie on Twitter at Court Junkie Pod, on Instagram at Court Junkie, and on YouTube. To hear these episodes without the ads or to check out additional Court Junkie bonus episodes, head on over to courtjunkie.com/support, which will redirect you to my Patreon page. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.